Am I the a-hole for turning up at the house my partner's car was at when he told me he was going somewhere else? Original post. Me and this man had been together for just over 3 years. I suspected nothing. He told me he was going over to one of his guy friends' houses, a guy friend who I know and whose house I know. He left, and around 2 hours later my friend texted me asking, "Who does your partner know who lives on the street name?" I said, "As far as I'm aware, nobody." "Why?" She told me his car was parked in the driveway of a house on a certain street in our town. So clearly he wasn't at his friend's house. I don't know if this is psycho behavior, but I asked her for the address, and I went there. I don't know why I didn't text him first or anything like that to see if he'd lie, or maybe he and his friend had gone to another person's house. I have no idea, but as soon as my friend said that, I just got in my car and went to see if it was his car. It was. I sat down the street and then texted him, asking if he was having a good time. He texted back straight away and said he was, and that he and his friend were building his new PC together. So I knew instantly he was lying. I went over to the house and knocked on the door. A woman answered. I had no idea who she was, but I could tell by the way her face dropped that she knew exactly who I was. I kept my cool and just said, "Tell him his things will be on my front lawn when he wants to come and get it." And I left. Another hour passed and he came home while I was gathering up his things. He had the nerve to instantly start kicking off at me, telling me that me going there was psycho, and that I was crazy for pulling that stunt. I didn't say anything, just carried on gathering his things. He kept telling me to stop, and I didn't. He got in front of me and said, "Stop." And that's when I lost it. I shoved him away from me and started crying, told him to get his things and get out. I then locked myself in my office room and waited for him to leave. This happened last night. Some of his things are still here. He didn't take much. Seems he just took a bunch of his clothes and his toiletries. Haven't heard from him, and I haven't texted him either. But was I the a-hole for turning up to this house he was at? Now for the top comments before reading the update. You know you weren't. For turning up there though, I don't think I'm an a-hole in the situation as a whole, but he made me feel like me going there was absolutely psychotic behavior, and I really wondered if it was, and if anyone here would have done the same. Nope, he got caught and is blaming you. Not the a-hole, but if he also lives there, you won't be able to just kick him out. And if you destroy his property, it's a crime. Don't make things worse for yourself. I live in the UK. He lives here, but it's my house, not his. He has no rights to my property. His stuff will be in bin bags and will be safe in my garden at least. Not that he deserves that. So his property won't be destroyed. I just don't want it in my house. Change the locks, so we can't enter when you're out. Now for the update. Thought I'd give a small update. He texted me late last night asking if we could talk. I said no. He showed up at my house at 7:30 this morning to get more of his things. He was quiet and then asked again if we could just talk for a minute. I told him to say what he needed to say. He said sorry, LOL, and proceeded to tell me that he was going to tell me. Turns out he's been seeing this girl for the last 4 months. He said he wasn't happy in our relationship, but couldn't or wouldn't give me any good reason why, so my guess is that he literally just got bored of me after 3 years. This girl is a lot younger than me, so that's another reason why I think he decided he wanted her more than me, even though he gave no signs that he was unhappy. When I say I didn't suspect anything, I mean that. I told him that if he was unhappy, he should have broken up with me, then started seeing this girl instead of cheating on me. He said it was complicated. In regards to people saying and questioning in the comments why my friend would even bother texting me, asking why my partner's car was parked in the drive of some random house, I don't know what to tell you. We live in a fairly small town. She happened to be driving down the street because she was delivering something to someone's house. She was selling something on FB Marketplace, and she clocked his car. He has a uniquely colored car, and just decided to ask me who he knew who lived on that street. I don't think that's too odd of a thing to do personally, especially with us living in a smaller town. It was dumb on his part, if anything. To those questioning whether I really didn't suspect a thing, no, honestly I didn't. His friend, who he said he was going to visit, is someone he visits often and always has during our relationship. This guy friend of his best friend, it turns out knew he was fooling around with this girl, so he's another dickhead. I don't know why I instantly went over to this house. It was nothing to do with me, subconsciously suspecting he was cheating. I literally didn't have a clue. I just did what I did on pure curiosity alone, because in that moment, it was clear he'd lied to me, because he said he was going to his boy's house, and he obviously didn't. Next story. Update. Am I the a-hole for getting my friend's girlfriend arrested after she got drunk and broke things in our house? Original post. So, for some background, a few months ago, my best friend Mark, 27 male, moved his girlfriend Heather, 25 female, in with us. My wife Cindy, 27 female, and I, 26 male, were okay with this. Mark and I have been friends since elementary school. Right before Heather moved in, she got herself pretty drunk, which ended in a screaming match with her sister and throwing things at Mark. We weren't too happy with this, but Mark said he talked to her and she wouldn't get to that point again. Well, on to the story. 2 weeks ago, we were all hanging out and having some drinks. Mark and Heather were going a little crazy, but they're adults, so whatever. Well, Cindy and I decided we were going to start on dinner since Heather was pretty unintelligible, and it was like 9 p.m. Mark also started working on dinner, so I hung out in the living room while Cindy went to our room. Heather went into their room, then came back out and headed outside for like 20 minutes. I asked if she was good and got a small mumble. Heather came back in, went into the kitchen, and then back into their room again. At this point, Mark was done making their dinner and went into their room. Mark came out and sat with me in the living room, and we were talking about my brother's upcoming bachelor party. We then heard banging coming from their room. Mark went to check on Heather, but she had blocked the door. He convinced her to open it, and he went in. Heather started screaming and yelling, continuing to slam things around. After about 10 minutes of hearing Heather yelling and Mark trying to calm her down, I went in and told Heather she needed to calm down. She started yelling some really weird and extremely racist things that I won't put here. Heather is half Hispanic, half African American, by the way. She started getting louder and tearing things off the walls. I told her she needed to go outside to calm down. She refused and started picking up their bed and slamming it down. I told her if she didn't stop, we would call the cops, so she could go calm down somewhere else and wouldn't be tearing things up. She just got louder and slammed the bed even more. I told Cindy to call the cops and tell them we needed Heather gone for the night. 2 cops showed up and asked the 3 of us to step outside while they tried to talk to Heather, who just continued yelling. Then it got a little quiet, and I could see through our screen door that Heather tried punching one of the cops. 5 minutes later, 7 more cops showed up. They all ran inside, and we could hear Heather screaming and yelling still. 10 minutes later, they brought her outside in one of those cop bodysuit things they use when someone is struggling and won't stop. They put her in one of the cars and were standing talking to each other. We could hear them saying that she got combative, threw stuff which hit a cop, and tried hitting one of them. They carted her off and told us themselves that she was being arrested and asked if we wanted to press charges. Since she didn't do anything to us, we said no. The cops left and we cleaned up the mess in the living room and then hung out with Mark to make sure he was okay. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Yes, you're the a-hole for not pressing charges. Without that, Mark is going to think it's okay to have her back in your house. Even if you tell him no, he may have her around when you are not home. Mark may be your friend, but Heather is not. And who cares about Mark's feelings about your property? Is Mark going to pay for the damages his, hopefully, ex-girlfriend incurred? Without pressing charges, you'll have to sue her for damages, and a judge is going to ask why you didn't press charges. She'll certainly get jail time for trying to assault an officer and resisting arrest, but pressing charges would add to her jail time and force her to compensate you for damages. And it would teach her a hard lesson she needs to learn. And Mark needs a new girlfriend. He's the a-hole for asking if she could move in, knowing her history of violence. Before the cops left, all we had noticed was the papers all over the living room and her own stuff she had trashed in their room. So no, we didn't feel like pressing charges over some papers and her own stuff that got messed up. Did you at least have her trespassed so she can't come back? Let her in with a cop standing by so she can get her stuff, then have her be gone for good. If her boyfriend doesn't like it, he can go too. She had a no-contact order placed against her by the DA, and when she comes to get her stuff, an officer will be there at the same time. Cindy got the number of the DA so we can request that. That's good to hear. Is her boyfriend breaking up with her, or is he insane too? He's insane too. He's moving out with her. Now for the update. That blew up faster than I thought. For context, no, we didn't press charges because she only broke her own stuff and made a bit of a mess. Pressing charges was just something we didn't feel like dealing with for her breaking her own crap. I also messed up the timeline. This happened 2 weeks ago. We've had a lot going on, sorry. Heather was released the next day with a preliminary hearing set for last Thursday. We obviously spent so much time talking about what had happened. Mark said he was going to break up with Heather and spent that whole first week saying that. Then last week he said he isn't going to break up with her. I told him that's his choice, albeit a stupid one, but she is not allowed back at the house at all, and he said he understood. 2 days before the preliminary hearing, Cindy and Mark are subpoenaed to court. Sadly, I wasn't, so this part is secondhand from Cindy. Cindy told me that because it's a felony, the judge is passing the case on to district court from the magistrate. I guess the DA went up to Cindy and Mark and said they could offer Heather a plea deal where she would basically be on probation with mandated therapy and mandated AA. Now whether the district judge accepts that is anyone's guess. I talked with Mark that night after I got off work, and he said they had a long talk after that and are staying together but won't be attached at the hip. Mark also said Heather doesn't remember anything after we stopped hanging out. He has spent every day since then with her, but that's his thing, so I don't really care. Cindy and I were out of town this past weekend, and we noticed on our doorbell camera that her car was magically gone at the same time Mark's was gone. I confronted him and he insisted she never went inside, and our doorbell doesn't show she went in. Cindy and I talked and were ready to kick him out too. We had another talk last night and he is moving out because they are finding a place together. We also told Mark we wanted an apology, even if Heather didn't think she deserved it. I also confronted Mark because he was saying at my brother's bachelor party that Heather didn't deserve it and the cops didn't need to be called, which is highly inappropriate at any type of event, but especially that one. Heather has been telling Mark that she was trying to leave and go to her brother's. She walked outside the one time and came back in with nobody trying to stop her. She also said that I started a confrontation with her, and that's why she went off the rails. I called BS because why would we try to stop her from leaving unless it was in a car? And we also asked how the heck she knows this, if she was supposedly so blacked out that she doesn't remember anything. Mark claims he doesn't remember anything until after the cops left, which is BS because we talked about what happened multiple times over the days after this occurred. He's just being an idiot and we won't be dealing with it anymore. Either way, both are moving out. Heather isn't allowed back except to get her stuff, and we will have an officer there when she's there. Thank you for the update. I am sorry for all the felonious behavior. Looks like the trash is taking itself out. Dude must be out of his mind too. I hope they stay together forever. Thanks for the update. Mark is not well in the head to continue living with that crazy and dangerous woman. Sigh. Never stick it into crazy. In this case, both are clearly very crazy with the shifting in stories, and then assigning blame to OP by both of them. It shows how bizarre codependent relationships get, with their versions of how things went. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not adding my longtime girlfriend to the deed of the house I bought us? I'm so conflicted on this. I'm 32 and have saved up my entire life to purchase a house for my longtime girlfriend and I, who I've been with for the past 3 years. I've recently purchased a $1 million home that she did not want to put a down payment together on, so I put down the down payment by myself and took out a mortgage. The house is under my name because I felt that since we weren't married yet, it was natural that I keep it under my name for now, but have no problem adding her when we get married. Her sister and mom said if I don't add her on the deed, then I don't trust her, and we can't continue our relationship without trust. I'm torn because I do trust her. Our relationship has been rocky lately because I feel her family and I don't see eye to eye on a lot of issues, and it's causing a lot of tension. Should I just add her on the deed to satisfy her family's demands? It's starting to impact how she thinks as well, because when we bought the house, she never mentioned anything about the deed. Under no circumstances, let your girlfriend's mother and sister convince you to give her rights to your $1 million asset. Are you crazy? She made her choice. She didn't want to put money down on it. What more is there to discuss? Trust has absolutely nothing to do with this. It's a $1 million asset. $1 million. It's not a freaking phone passcode. Wake up. I feel I'm taking huge financial risk for us. Meanwhile, she has not really offered to contribute in any way. I don't mind because I can work hard and manage it, but at some point, it does feel like I'm taking all the risk here. Mate, you honestly shouldn't even be considering this. The conversation ended when she said she didn't want to invest. You don't get returns without investment. Married? Different story. Until marriage, there's no sanity in signing away half of the asset that it took your whole life to acquire because mother and sister said so. You gotta stand up for yourself here. Married before purchasing a property? Yes, it should be in both names. But you're not married. You're the only one who saved for the property. Why throw her half? That's just silly. Get a prenup. Not the a-hole. Dear Lord, why is this even worth considering? If they're insistent on it, then they did you a huge favor in showing their true colors before it's too late. I was considering it because I really want our relationship. It just feels a bit unfair for them to ask this when I've shown that I've put everything on the line for her. It's one thing if her family has this opinion, but even she thinks the same now. If anything, this is poison for your relationship if you give in. Feeding entitlement will only lead to more entitlement down the lane. Yeah, like, why does she need to be on the deed if she is so loyal to OP and cares about trust? This is gaslighting him in my humble opinion. This is the huge red flag to me. She didn't want to put any money down, but wants her name on the deed? And she's using her family as her flying monkeys, so she can make it look like her hands are clean. OP, I am sure it's hard to see right now, but this is honestly a gift. They showed their true faces. Believe them. Your girlfriend is not the person you think she is.